Hi, I've got multiple requests to do a tutorial about Barry Harris and his 6th Diminished scales. And of course there are already many tutorials on that subject, but I thought it would be useful if I show it my way and make it very accessible and clear like the way I do with other subjects. Now, Barry Harris was a giant in jazz and a renowned pianist and theorist. One of the subjects he is really known for is his 6th Diminished theory, or some call it the creation theory. Now, on one hand, it offers you a unique way to create rich harmony and movement over a single chord. And on the other hand, it will offer you deep understanding of harmony and how a family of 24 chords descend from one single diminished chord. Now, I will explain it from a practical point of view and in part 2 from a theoretical point of view to go all the way down the rabbit hole. Now, if you watch this channel for the first time, I am Rob van Hal and I'm doing intermediate to advanced theory music lessons for fusion, progressive rock and jazz, and in such a way that you can apply it in a real musical situation, so one-on-one applicable in your own music. Now, a 6th chord is a major or minor triad with an added major 6th. The C6th or C major 6th chord is built from a C major triad built from the notes C, E and G plus that major 6th A on top of the triad. So C, E, G and A. Now, on the guitar we can use different shapes and you should learn them on the top 4 strings in drop 2 voicings. And you should learn them on the middle 4 strings also in drop 2 voicings. Now, the minor 6th chord has the same construction, only now the major 6th is added to the C minor triad. And the shapes for these chords look like this. And on the middle strings like this. The best thing is to learn these by heart to avoid frustration. Superimposing is just layering 2 chords or a scale and a chord on top of each other to create a new sound. For instance, combining a C major chord and an E minor chord, that will give us a C major 7 chord, so the sum of those two is a C major 7 chord. Now, that's great power with a simple technique, and that is what we will do with the 6th chord as an entrance to the Barry Harris diminished 6th theory. Now, later we will discover that all of these chords in the next sections of this video are connected by a diminished chord. And that is the essence of the Barry Harris 6th diminished theory. Now, first a quick word about our sponsor for today, which is Freebeat and is the world's first AI music video generator that transforms your songs into engaging music videos that will fit the mood and rhythm of your songs. Now, you can simply upload your own recorded songs or use links to YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud or even Suno if you're a complete noob. Now, I am uploading the 251 example that we will see later on in this Barry Harris tutorial. Now, then just describe what you'd like to see in the video, and I wanted a typical 30s film noir setting, which was very easy because while you type, the AI engine helps you to make the best description for the best results. Now, you can even choose a featuring character for your video and a specific style, like for instance cartoon or high energy or pixel art. And you can choose for a specific approach, like a lyric video or storytelling video or an abstract visuals video or a viral short. Now, then it's time to hit the create button and the magic starts and the whole process is shown on screen. And you can even fine-tune things during the creation process. Now, finally, sit back and enjoy the result. Try it and experiment to have some fun by using my affiliate link in the description and in the pinned comment to get a 10% of the Pro membership, and at the same time you will support me. And now back to the lesson. Now, if we play a C major 6 chord built from the notes C, E, G and A over the C major 7 chord built from the notes C, E, G and B, we'll get the notes C, E, G, A and B. Now, rearranging these notes will show us that the result is a C major 7 13 chord. So whenever we encounter a major 7 chord, we can now superimpose the major 6 chord and its inversions, of course, over a C bass or a C major 7 chord. And that sounds like this. Now we can also superimpose a G major 6 chord, built from the notes G, B, D and the major 6th E, over the C major 7 chord. The result is a C major 9 chord with the root C, the 3rd E, the 5th G, the major 7th B and the 9th D. So whenever we see a major chord on a major 7 chord, then we can superimpose the major 6 chord of the 5th degree, in this case G6 and the inversions over C, and that sounds like this. Now superimposing a C minor 6 over a C minor 7 chord is the obvious thing to do, and it results in a C minor 7 13 chord. The major 6th is also the 13th. Now superimposing an E flat major 6 chord, however, built from the notes E flat, G, B flat and the major 6 C over the C minor 7 chord results in the notes C, E flat, G and B flat. Now obviously this is still a C minor 7 chord. And there's a reason for that, because the C minor 7 is actually an inversion of the E major 6 chord. And this is the way Barry Harris thinks about minor 7 chords all the time. He sees them as inverted major 6 chords. So playing a major 6 chord of the flat 3rd, which is also the parallel major key by the way, results in a minor 7 sound. So E flat 6 over C or C minor 7 sounds like this. Now you have to understand that a minor 7 flat 5 chord is actually an inversion of a minor 6 chord. For instance, C minor 7 flat 5 is built from the notes C, E flat, G flat and B flat, right? Now this is an inversion of the E flat minor 6 chord that is built from the notes E flat, G flat, B flat and C. So, whenever you encounter a minor 7 flat 5 chord, you can play the minor 6 chord of the minor 3rd degree. It sounds like this. Over the dominant chord, we have a lot of options for superimposing a 6th chord. Now the first one is playing a minor 6 chord of the 5th degree. And this means that we can play a D minor 6 chord that is built from the notes D, F, A and the major 6B, over a G7 chord that is built from the notes G, B, G and F. Now the result are the notes G, B, G, F and A, which is in fact a G dominant 9 chord. Now playing a D minor 6 and its inversions over a G7 chord will sound like this. Superimposing the minor 6 chord of the flat 2nd degree will trigger a so-called altered sound. For instance, playing an A flat minor 6 chord that is built from the notes A flat, C flat, E flat and the major 6th F over a G dominant 7 chord that is built from the notes G, B, G and F, that will result in a G dominant 7 sharp 5 flat 9 chord. Because the C flat is enharmonic equal to the 3rd B and the E flat to the augmented 5th D sharp. So we'll get the notes G, B, D sharp, F and the flat 9th A flat. And this altered option has a lot of tension and sounds like this. Now important for you is that you understand that this works because these chords are connected by a diminished chord. And even if I didn't show you that yet, it's important for you to understand that right now. And it will be clear later on. Now the next step is learning about the diminished 6th scale itself. A 6th diminished scale is the sum of a 6th chord, and a diminished chord that has no notes in common with that major 6 chord. An example of such a chord pair is C major 6 that is built from the notes C, E, G and the major 6th A, and a B diminished 7 chord that is built from the notes B, D, F and A flat. Combining these 8 unique chord tones of these 2 chords will give us an octatonic scale, so an 8-note scale, that could be described as a C major scale with an extra minor 6th A flat. Of course, there's also a minor 6th diminished scale, and that is built from the notes of a minor 6th chord and a diminished chord that has no notes in common with that minor 6th chord. Now, for instance, C minor 6 and again a B diminished 7 chord. Now, the notes of these 2 chords form a minor 6th diminished scale that could be seen as a melodic minor scale with an added minor 6th degree. You could also see it as a major 6th diminished scale with a minor 3rd. Now, this scale can be used for improvising, sure, but it is much more important to use it as a basis for an harmonic framework that can be used over a single chord to add movement and color. So, let's see how that works. Now, because the scale is built from a 6th chord and a diminished chord, harmonizing this scale will result in alternating a major 6th chord and a diminished chord, like you see in this graphic. Now, one scale note will be part of the major 6th chord, and the other one, the next one, will be part of the diminished chord. And that goes on, goes on, goes on. In this scale, we go through all the inversions of both chords. Now, let's listen to this harmonized scale in this example. The 4 diminished chords in this scale are all the same chord, because a diminished chord is a symmetrical chord, which means that every note in the chord can be a root and you'll get the same chord over and over again. The chord repeats itself in an inversion every minor 3rd. Now, the diminished 7 chord can be seen as the upper structure of a dominant 7 flat 9 chord. The B diminished 7 chord in this scale, for instance, is the upper structure of the G7 flat 9 chord. So alternating between the 6th chord and the diminished 7 chord is the same as alternating between the dominant 7 flat 9 chord and the C major 6 chord. Now, that is a very strong dominant tonic relationship. The same goes for the minor 6th diminished scale that can be harmonized with alternating minor 6th and diminished 7 chords. The color is different, but the effect is exactly the same. Now, to illustrate how this works, we could substitute the chords from the 2-5-1 in C major with the chords of a particular 6th diminished scale. We've seen earlier in the video that we can superimpose the major 6 chord of the parallel major key over the minor chord. So, over D minor 7, we can play the chords of the F major 6th diminished scale. F major is the 3rd degree in D minor, and it is the relative major key of D minor. Now we'll get a D minor 7 chord with some color and tension caused by the flat 6th D flat in the diminished chords that lie in between the 6th chords. Now this sounds like this over a static D minor 7 chord. And over the G dominant 7 chord we can superimpose the minor 6 chord of the flat 2nd degree, which is an A flat minor 6 chord. So we'll use the chord of the A flat minor 6 diminished scale. And this will create an altered dominant sound because of a couple of notes: the flat 9 A flat, the sharp 9 A sharp, the flat 5 D flat and the sharp 5 D sharp. over the C major chord, we could use the G major 6th diminished scale, which is the major 6th scale of the 5th degree. And that creates a major 9 sound. And that will sound like this. Now, all together in a 2-5-1 progression, this will sound like this. And all these superimpositions that we just have seen, we already talked about earlier in the video. Now the last thing in this part 1 that I want to show you is how to get a somewhat modern sound using the 6th diminished scale. And that is all about borrowing notes from the next chord in the scale. So instead of playing a C major 6 chord on the 1st degree, we now borrow the note B from the next D diminished 7 chord. Now this creates a C major 7 chord. Now we'll keep on doing that. So the next diminished 7 chord, the D diminished 7 chord, becomes a D minor 7 flat 5 chord because we'll borrow the note C from the next inversion of the C major 6 chord. Now then the first inversion of that major 6 chord becomes an E minor 11 chord by borrowing the note D from the next diminished chord. After that, the F diminished 7 chord borrows the note E from the next chord and becomes a beautiful chord that can be named in different ways, but I will call it the F minor major 7 flat 5 chord. Now after that, the second inversion of the major 6 chord becomes a G9 sus4 chord by using the note F from the next diminished chord. So these new chords sound much more modern than the 6th chords that still have a little bit of that early jazz vibe, right? And then again, it all depends, of course, how you use them. Anyway, playing these shapes in a more modern setting sounds like this. So that's it for today. Next time we look at the theory behind all this, which is the Barry Harris 6th diminished theory or creation theory, to find out how the universe of music works and is linked together. And we will find out that one diminished chord creates 24 chords that are one big family and very much connected and work perfectly together. Interactions help me grow, so please let me know what your opinion and thoughts are about the subject and about the video. I want to say thank you patrons for your essential support. Thank you very much. Bye.